Well, good morning. It's Arlo Johnson in Vernon, British Columbia. On the last day of 2023, December 31st, at about 10:45 a.m. It's about right now here. It's about 4 or 5 degrees above freezing. No snow, so it's not no bad winter yet or anything. We'll get it, but it's not here yet. So I hope you're all doing fine and had a good Christmas, and hopefully you'll celebrate a new year. Everybody does in one way or the other. And it's going to be 2024. Hmm. That's getting to be 10 years for me short of a century. But if you're listening to the news, which is an awful thing to do because you know there's no truth in it, it's all of them 95% lies. That's for sure. But things are starting to boil. There's no question about that. You know, uh, I just saw a blurb on the internet that they're finding microplastics, in all kinds of places, oceans, top of the mountains. Now they claim they found it in human blood. Microplastics, just like cloud stuff. And it's obviously people are breathing it in, drinking it in through water or fluids of some kind. And that's getting pretty bad. You know, Jesus preached about the end of the age and that he was going to have to come back and straighten it all out. But, when is a question. We don't really know when. We know the cycle it's going to go through, when it starts, but when it starts, we don't know. Like, for instance, 2024 is going to be here. 2025, 2000 blah, 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 30. Because the first thing that happens is we have to have the 7-year tribulation. When that starts, there's 7 years before Christ comes to shut things down. And then after he does that, there's another 1,000 years before the plan actually stops. And it is a plan. It is a plan that is going to actually happen no matter what people say. Doesn't matter what people say. Doesn't matter what I say, you say, we say. What God says is what happens. What Jesus has said is what happens. I know for a fact now that there's nobody I can trust in this world, really, because they've all been polluted, they've all been, just polluted by lies. And they believe lies because they don't know what else to believe. And you can't blame them. But passing that on to another person as truth, that doesn't work. Only Jesus Christ told the truth. And what God the Father encouraged people or inspired to people to write in the Old Testament. And you believe anything else, you're just hogwash. I mean, you have to kind of believe a few things that people say, like ordinary things. But if it gets into any kind of belief systems like religion and politics and all that stuff, you got to just say, whoa, that's not something I'm going to believe in. Something's going to happen, all right, but I don't. you know, you saying what you're saying about it is not necessarily true. The, you know, the problem is people, a majority of people, do not give a shit. They don't worry about it. They don't want to believe it. And they say it all goes on as is. And to a certain extent it does. But it changes. Every day it changes. I've noticed that. I couldn't say exactly what changed that day, but it's a different the next day. It just keeps sort of molding and going. All kinds of things. When you look at point A to point B, a certain amount, big changes. It's not the same anymore. And the thing that I preach to people is that God has a plan and you're in it. You're in it whether you like it or not. You're in it. We are in it right up to our eyeballs. You know, it took me a long time to understand a couple of things. Because, for instance, I went to the Lutheran Church for a good 60 years. And I found out and studied and found out things that I should have known years ago, 50, 60 years ago. They never talked about that. It's like they didn't understand it or didn't know. I guess they never read the book of Revelation. I don't know if you have or not, but that's an eye-opener. And that's one with promise. Whether you like it or not, God promises that he will bless you if you read his. Jesus said he will bless you if you read his last message to this planet, the earth. And I mean, who would have thought that by reading Revelation that you would discover that God's city that Jesus said, I'm going to build a place for you, a city for you, and where I am, there you will be also. Now, blah, 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 goes like that. When you look into it and actually read what it says in, I think it's verse 20 or chapter 20 of Revelation, the size of it, the size will not fit on continental United States. That's the size of it. It'll be out in the Gulf. Huh. Quite a deal, eh? Then, God forgot to tell us that how big a new earth he's going to make. He said, I will create a new heaven and a new earth. He said that. Period. Nothing else. He didn't say that he had to build a huge earth, not a small earth like this. But the earth will be a huge size. Huge. Hundreds and hundreds of times bigger than it is now. And how many, well, should I say people or sons or whatever will be on that planet when he finally builds it, and when he decides who's going to live with him, who's going to be there with him forever. This is forever. 100 billion? I don't know. Could be. I'm quite sure there's been 100 billion people live on this earth since it started. And, you know, that'd be quite a few, all right. You know, it's 8 billion here now. And if he builds a huge, bigger earth and a big city like that, that's close to, you know, maybe 80 or 100 billion people on it, all spiritual people. in spiritual bodies, no hospitals, no ambulances, no. Yeah, and totally different scenario. You, I mean, for the life of me, I can't imagine how it would be. How it is, say, for instance, I was lucky enough to be in that book of life that Jesus has, and you were, and we were to meet there somehow, and, I mean, would we talk, meet, whatever, in a spiritual form? And of course, that's supposed to be a more uh, uh, beautiful body that we have now, and it would have to be strong. It would have to be a pretty powerful body, and just think of a simple thing like it never is night. There's no night. There's no night. There's daytime all the time. You're awake. You never sleep. You're awake all the time. That's it. You're alive all the time. All the time. There's no sea. Can you imagine that? I've been on a couple of cruises in the last while, and I sit and look out on the ocean, and I just contemplate and say, how did all this water get here, and where is it going to go? I mean, if God is not going to have no sea, but he'll have water, because he said there will be a river running out of the city of God, out into the... And I believe somewhere it says that the deserts will bloom. If there is a desert, then I don't know. There's no night. The the light that will be there is a permanent light, which is God and Jesus Christ emanate this light to the whole world. They are the light. When you think about it and think about what has gone on here, that God must have started this a long time ago and made a plan from beginning to the end. He says, I'm the Alpha and the Omega, beginning and the end. Here's the plan. Are you in it? Yes? No? And we're following this plan. It's not just happening. God has a plan, and it's going to come in just segments like that until it's completed. And we know, we can find out what the plan is. I mean, God tells us pretty plainly, here's the plan, and everything so far in this plan has happened exactly like the Bible says it does. Exactly. Right to the nth degree. So, you could quit worrying about when this age is going to end, because you'll know when it does. You will know. And you'll know when the tribulation starts, if you're aware of it, when the tribulation starts, and the man of sin is revealed, and he takes over the world through United Nations or something like that, and then he runs it for 3.5 years as a good guy. Then after the 3.5 years, that's the end of that, and then all hell breaks loose. And people are killed left and right and destroyed and warring and fighting and elements, just everything, earthquakes, storms, everything under the sun. Now, there's one danger that I see is people promoting the rapture. I never heard of the rapture in, like in 60 years. All of a sudden in the last 10 or 15 years, it's become very popular. And these preachers are all flogging all over it. They're just, preaching, the rapture, we're going to get out of here. We're not going to be in this tribulation thing here. You got to believe that. Get ready for the flyaway deal. That doesn't ring true to me at all. I never heard of it. I never had a thing about it. And what makes me wonder is the ones who are promoting this the most are trying to add to God's plan. I don't think God likes that. I don't think he'll take kindly to that at all. And when it doesn't happen, how are they going to be then? People are going to suffer in the tribulation. There's no question about it. That's God's wrath. And unless you are able to avoid it, or God basically sets you aside, he's promised a few things, and he's also said things like you will be arrested, but you'll only be in jail or do something for maybe 3 or 5 days or something like that. And he said you could be killed, they will have you killed. But he says, don't worry about that. Being killed is not the biggest thing. You're going to die anyway. You're going to die anyway. So he said, don't accept a plea of some kind that puts you in danger of hellfire because you didn't. Because the mark of the beast thing and all that, I mean, it's going to happen. There's going to be something like that happen. And that's going to be a choice that people have to make. And I believe that they're not going to refuse it. That one generation of people, it's not the whole world forever, it's just that one generation of people, they'll say, I'm not going to be cut off from my money and I can't do this and I can't do that. They're going to take it. But there's the ones that God says you will suffer worse than any tribulation. I will put you into hell. So don't do that. If they kill you, they kill you. Don't take the mark of the beast. Don't do any of that stuff. This life is just a temporary life. This is not forever. So whether it ends 2 weeks earlier or 6 months earlier or whatever, that's not a big deal. You've had your chance to live, make your choices. So I would warn anybody who hears this to say, I'm going to just take it as it comes. I'm not going to sell my soul to Satan. That's what it is. Anyway, it's the end of the year. There's a new year starting tomorrow morning. 2024. We'll see you around in 2024. Goodbye. God bless.